We are Sensational Families. I don't know if anybody has heard anything about Sensational Families before. It's been going on for a little while, but NANSA took it on, I want to say 2021 maybe, so a few years ago.
4 years ago.
So I'm Kate and I'm the manager of Sensational Families. I've been the manager for about 1.5 years, but I've been in the world of SEND, working in the world of SEND for about 12 years now. Mostly for NANSA actually, in lots of different roles. I've worked directly with children from naught all the way up to adulthood actually. And in the last few years I've worked more with parents. I've found that actually I really enjoy working directly with children and supporting them, but I find it really fulfilling working with the parents and helping them to understand their children. And actually it's, as you will know, it can be quite a battle and it can be quite lonely. So we're here for that really. We're here to help you find your way through. I'm gone off on a tangent already. This is why I've got notes, because I will just talk. That's me in a nutshell, and some extras. And this is my colleague.
Hi, I would just like to add that Kate is very knowledgeable about NANSA, and I am the NANSA newbie, so be gentle with me please. I've been working for Sensational Families as a family support advisor since January this year, and although I absolutely love it and they've made me feel so welcome, that I actually feel like I've been working here for ages.
I feel like you've been here forever already.
Yeah. I've got to keep to notes as well, otherwise I'll be telling you my whole life story. So a little bit about me. Throughout my working life I've been in education, so I've been teaching maths in Norfolk for about 30 years across all age ranges and abilities, before continuing my interest in supporting pupils with neurodivergence, and I worked at a special complex needs school, working one-to-one with autistic young people to start with, and then moving across to a Key Stage 2 class, but I loved both of those, the whole thing. And now I'm going to just tell you a little bit about our Sensational Families team. Please. So we provide advice and guidance for a large range of issues faced by families with children and young people who have been diagnosed or suspected special educational needs and disabilities, referred to as SEND, up to the age of 25. And we support in a number of different ways. So fortnightly during term time we offer support groups around Norfolk where you can come to speak to our family support advisors. We are them at the moment, as well as other parents and carers. In these groups we discuss all manner of issues that crops up for our families, as well as inviting professionals to come and talk about what support they can also offer. It's an opportunity for you to seek advice from professionals, but also to speak to other parents and carers who understand your situation, because everyone's circumstances are unique. However, by sharing lived experiences with those that understand and empathise, it does help reduce feelings of isolation and boost self-esteem. And I've seen that firsthand.
Absolutely.
For those that are not able to access our support groups, we also have an inquiry form on the NANSA website that you can complete, and a family support advisor will get in contact via email or telephone, depending on your preferred method of communication. As well as offering advice and guidance through supportive conversations and signposting relevant services, we also offer advocacy within meetings where a parent or carer is struggling to get their views heard and understood. This may be by helping you prepare for a meeting, or I attended a meeting with a lady the other week just to be an extra adult in the room and to take notes so that she wasn't having to do two things at once. Kate is now going to cover 4 main areas of discussions with opportunities for questions. Over to you, my oracle, Kate. I had to get that in. She is my oracle.
Just to add to that, we don't have all the answers. As I'm sure you're aware, nobody has all the answers. However, one thing we strive to do is to help you find what you need and support you on your journey. And I think that's the key thing to Sensational Families. And also to plug that our next support group is next Monday at NANSA Family Centre, which is on Woodcock Road, and they run from 10 till 12. So if you wanted to come along and speak to us some more, you are very welcome. They're drop-in, so you don't have to come for the whole thing. You can come in, ask a question and leave. Come for a cup of coffee and listen to other people.
Tea and toast?
Tea and toast we have, yeah, biscuits.
Yeah.
But yeah. So one of the things that often crops up in our discussions with parents and carers is behaviour and understanding behaviour. But what is behaviour? What do we mean by that word? It's all encompassing, isn't it? Everything we do is behaviour. So I'm sure you've heard the phrase that all behaviour is communication. But what does that mean? How do we know what a child is trying to communicate to us? And how do we help them to communicate their needs more effectively? Well, I've put down here's my prompt: data collection. I'm a big nerd. I believe in you need lots of data in order to understand anything. So the first thing that I'm going to ask if somebody comes to me with an issue, so for example, somebody might come to me and say, oh, my child always runs away. They're always running. They always run away from everything. And I don't know why. I don't know what to do. How do I stop this? So the first thing I'm going to ask is, well, where is this happening? How often? What's happening? You know, we need to look at the bigger picture. So I encourage everybody to begin with to reflect on those instances where whatever behaviour you're worried about is happening, but also as we go forward to make notes. So we all carry phones on us all the time, so that's the easiest and obvious way to do this. And some parents find that sending themselves WhatsApp in the moment about what's going on helps. I use a notes app, so I might just make notes. Again, you can do it in the moment and then reflect on it afterwards. But there are some things that I encourage everybody to think about when we're thinking about a particular behaviour that we're talking about. So first is the obvious one, it's the bigger picture. What else is going on in the child's life in that time? So has something changed recently? Has there been a big change? Have they moved classes perhaps in school, or has a change happened in the house? Have you moved, or is there something wrong with a sibling that's then impacting their internal thoughts process of the child? Are they ill? Is there something? Have they got pain somewhere they can't verbalise that to you? Is there something else going on in there? So these are all things to think about in terms of the bigger picture. That's a tiny thing, but we can dig through that with you and help you understand that. So the next thing you need to think about is what happens just before or at the time of the behaviour you're concerned about. So this is why I think recording it is really important, because you're not necessarily aware of patterns, but actually by recording it you might find that there's a particular time of day that they're always running away, for example, or they're always shouting and screaming, or perhaps they're hurting you. Perhaps it's a particular time of day. Perhaps there's a particular activity that they're trying to avoid, or that causes turmoil or distress. Perhaps it's a particular person. Perhaps they only behave like this for one or a set of people. So again, collecting that data as you go, you start to see those patterns. And then what's the result of the behaviour? What happens because of what they've done or are doing? So if behaviour is communication, let's figure out what they're trying to say. It can be helpful to categorise behaviours into 4 functions. I don't want you to get caught up on these, and we'll cover that in a minute, but sometimes it's helpful to think of behaviours having 4 functions. So those functions are escape avoidance. So actually, is what they're doing there because they are trying to leave a situation or avoid doing something. Secondly is attention. We hear that a lot, particularly from schools. Oh, they're doing it for attention. Okay, maybe they are. Maybe it's for positive attention, maybe it's for negative attention. But actually what we're hearing from that is that they're looking for connection. So yes, they might be doing something for attention. Let's look at more positive ways that they can find that connection. The third one is tangibles or action. So that is to get something. So Is it to get a certain item of food? Is it to do a particular activity? Actually, I'll go back to running. Is it fun? Are they being chased? Is that good fun? Is it they just want to play, or when they run away, is there something you give them to get them back or to make them stay? So that's too far. And the fourth one is sensory, or sometimes referred to as automatic reinforcement. So that's to feel good or to stop an unpleasant reaction. So the obvious one is fidgeting, guilty, rocking, pacing. If you came in earlier, you'd have seen me pacing up and down. So they are some ways that you can view that help you understand what the message is behind behaviours. The reason I say don't get hung up on those is because actually the same behaviour might serve different functions in different situations and for different people. So I used the example of running and running away in that. And actually you can see that in different situations someone might be running to get away from something, or running to get to something, to get something. Running again for the attention because they like suddenly getting all this attention of people chasing them and trying to catch them. Actually, they might like running. I run to calm down, so they might be running because actually they're stressed, and that's the way that they get their energy out. So actually, although it can be helpful to think of those functions, don't get too hung up on them, because you need to look at the bigger picture to figure out what it is we're communicating. And actually, I'm telling you to do the data collection and work all that out. It's really helpful to have conversations. So that's why getting that support network in place is really important, and something we really try to help people with is having those conversations, talk through it, to work out what it is that your child or young people are trying to communicate. And once we sort of start to build up this picture, it's only then that we can start to think about, actually, do we need to help them change? Do we need to help them find a different way of still meeting those needs? Because those needs are unmet. They're trying to tell you what they need. We need to find a more healthier way, more effective way, a safer way to do that. I ranted sometimes. Yep.
I think in schools,
I
I'll just
missed one
say,
bit.
shall I?
Oh yeah, go on.
Just about the categorising, it's so difficult.
It's really difficult.
Yeah, and obviously you need to know, like you said, all the triggers, everything that's happened before, everything that's happening afterwards, and you definitely need the whole bigger picture.
And in the moment, as a parent and carer, you are not necessarily in your most rational mind. No. You know, things are happening, and it's really difficult in that moment to go, oh yeah, that's what they need. And that's why the reflection is really important for us, and making notes and again, reflecting on your life. It can be busy and hectic, and it sounds like I'm asking you to do a lot of work there, but hence the stick a quick note on your phone and then
think about it later. Yeah.
And get people around you to help you look at it from a different perspective. So finally, one thing I didn't cover is who responds to their behaviour and how, and what are those responses by those around that child? Are they helpful? Have a think about how there have been different responses and what worked and what didn't. And again, that might change depending on the environment, depending on who it is. Do they respond to the child calm down better for one person and not another? And actually, in the moment, are they looking for a response? Do they want a response, or is no response better? Is actually staying calm and letting them get things out of their system? Because when a child is really heightened, really upset, they themselves aren't in their rational mind. You can't talk to them. You can't talk about what's just happened. You need to help them reach that level of calm before you can help them to change their behaviours, if that's the end goal. Talk about changing behaviour. However, sometimes it's understanding the behaviour and actually helping them through that. It's when reflecting, when I'm talking about those sensory patterns to feel good or to stop an unpleasant reaction, do we want to change that? Actually understanding it and helping them express that and feel safe expressing that might turn out to be your end goal. Because sometimes actually we reflect and realise we're trying, people are trying to change what they're doing, but actually they need to do that. And the reason we're looking to change it is because of those social expectations that they shouldn't be doing that. But actually it might be okay for them to do that, and we find a way that they can do that. That was a lot of theory. I'm sure you've got some examples. I might leave questions around things right until the end. We were going to do breaks, but I think because we don't want to film the questions, it'll be easier to carry on through the discussion points, and then we can come to questions right at the end. So if all behaviour is communication, let's talk about how we can support that communication. I want us to consider, so we're not just thinking about speech, but social communication too. And just because a child appears to put words together in coherent sentences does not always mean that they're able to understand deeper meanings. Conversely, just because a child is not able to speak does not mean that they do not understand speech or what is happening around them. And I think that they're really important points to make. Not all of our children can talk, but that doesn't mean that they don't understand equally. Just because they can talk to us, and we can have a conversation, does not mean that they can understand deeper meanings of what we're saying. It also doesn't mean that they can hold on to that information and follow processes, follow steps if you're given it. So just bear that in mind when we talk about communication. So there are lots of tools out there to help us, depending on the specific challenges that we're facing. I'm just going to go for a few of them, but if any of them you have more questions about, we can talk about them afterwards. So sort of at the bottom of the chain, if you like, are objects of reference, where we might use, for example, if you're trying to help somebody understand that there's a specific time perhaps to have a drink, then you might use their cup that they always use, and show them that to say, right, it's time for a drink. Or if it's time to go out in a car, you might always show them the car key to say, right, we're going in the car. So that's a very basic example of objects of reference. Next,
we have got some bits and bobs, don't we?
We have. So a commonly used one, particularly in schools, but I do think it's useful outside of the school environment as well, is the Now and Next board.
So we have a Velcro version.
This is a really good one to have out and about with you.
So then you can just stick whatever your activities are on. Or if you haven't got, to say whatever you're doing, sorry. If you haven't got one of those, you can just use a whiteboard. That's what we used to do at school. And just, cut it in half and put Now and Next. And then just write the activities on.
Yeah.
So now we're listening to Kate, and next will be running for the hills.
I hope not. Next will be questions. Now
next will be questions.
Next is questions.
Yeah. Simple things like that you can do if you haven't got the Velcro.
So they help somebody to know what they should be doing in the moment and what to expect is next. They really support anybody who struggles with transitions from finishing an activity. Perhaps knowing what is next helps them. We use that within the centre. We use that along with other cues. So we might use a song as well to help them finish an activity, and then next is but there's lots of things you can do with Now and Next boards. Visual timetables. It's almost an extension of a. Have we got? We don't.
Haven't really got a visual timetable. I've got a visual timer.
Yeah. That's not the same thing.
No.
Visual timetables, a bit of an extension of Now and Next. Again, they use them a lot in schools. I do think they're useful at home as well. The thing with school is it's really structured, so that can help children that like the structure, and at home we don't necessarily have that same level of structure, but actually if you use a visual timetable, it helps to put some structure in place at home that they have in school. So you might put out your day, what's happening. It depends again on the child as to what level they need that. They might need that really broken down, as in first we get dressed, then we eat our breakfast, then we brush our teeth. They might need it at that level, or it might be first we get ready for the day, then we are going to the supermarket, then it's lunchtime, then it's, so it depends on the child. All of these things, it's trial and error, or you might find that one thing works for a little while and then you need to move it on.
And it's pictures and words we can use, can't we?
You can use pictures and words again.
And the family that I was supporting the other day when I went in for the meeting, because the young person was finding it easy to use a visual timetable at school, the school offered, the Senko offered, to make a visual timetable for home for the holidays. Yes. So then the parent could just email in and say what they were going to be getting up to, and then they could just transfer it over. So they were using, it's consistency as well for them, I think.
Absolutely, consistency is key. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's good, lovely. And then the sign along, which is a simple form of signing. And also social stories is another really common and useful tool.
So we, in my past experience at school, we used them for if we were going to go out for the day, so that the young people knew what bus we were getting and would show them a picture of the bus. And we came to Norwich to the Castle Museum, so pictures of that, so that there was no surprises for them en route. Well, limited surprises. Or we'd use it as a restorative, so kind hands, kind words if there was an incident at school. Or we would use it for, like, I think we've got in here, playing games with others. So turn taking, just so that we're not setting them up to fail. We're giving them plenty of preparation to be ready for the activity or whatever's ahead, really. Do you want to take that one out? So
they're nice. You can make them yourself. So I've done it where I've made it with a child because he really loved art. So he drew all the pictures for me as we talked through. But obviously for other children, that might not be what they want to do. This one is done for quite a young child or a young cognitive level, with lots of pictures and a brief sentence. Some older children might prefer more words and less pictures. But the key thing about these is you can revisit them. So if it's an issue that comes up a lot, you don't expect our children to get these things straight away. So you revisit it and you're using the same words each time. So that's the really key thing about social stories. You're using the same language, those same words, and that repetitiveness.
Yes.
A repetition. And that is really key to learning and to teaching anything. There are lots of social stories that you can just look up online because you can use it for all manner of things. So I do encourage people to have a little Google. You can make your own.
Yeah,
you
and
can
then
find
adapt
something
them,
that's already done.
Yeah.
But they are a useful tool. So let's move on. I'm wittering on. Let's move on to cover very quickly SEND provision in school and EHCPs. So school have a duty to listen to you if you suspect any special educational provision is required, and this covers all areas of learning, so not just cognitive. You'll find that they're worried about the cognitive, they're not so worried about social and emotional, but they do have a duty to support children that are struggling socially and emotionally, and with their physical development and also with their sensory needs as well. So they're all covered by the curriculum. As soon as you raise a problem with school, they should be doing some form of assessment. They have to follow what's called the graduated approach, and that is a 4-stage process. And that is assess, plan, do, review. And that is as simple as it sounds. They should do some assessments to see what's going on, and from those assessments should form a plan, sometimes called a SEND plan, sometimes a IEP.
IEP.
What's that stand for?
Individual Education Plan.
Thank you. Sometimes it's a behaviour plan. I hate it. I hate that. They might use that, but sometimes it is called a behaviour plan. So they'll put a plan in place. You should get a copy of that plan. If you do not see that plan, then you need to shout, because you should see a copy of that plan and have the opportunity to make any comments that you want to on that. So then the do is the putting the plan in place. And obviously we're not expecting anything to happen very quickly, so we give it a period of time. Some of those interventions that they put in place might be only for 6 weeks or whatever anyway. Some might be long term. However, they should be reviewing whatever they're doing regularly. And again, you should be aware of when that review is due. It should be written on the plan when they give you the plan. And that review should show that some progress is being made. If it's not being made, we're going to update the plan, in theory.
Yeah, in theory.
They would... Yeah, we update the plan.
Difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, well, this is where we often get involved. So parents will struggle at this point because school will say, yeah, things are progressing, and parents are going, things aren't progressing. So if you find that things aren't progressing, that's when we might start looking at asking for an EHCP. And these are things that we can help you with, whether it is preparing you for a meeting or whether it's coming along with you if you need some extra support. It's worth mentioning that there's a document called the Provision Expected at School Support, also known as the PEAS document. I printed it out. I don't recommend printing it unless you've got a lot of ink. It's available online on the Norfolk County Council website, or you can always come and have a quick look with us.
Yeah, we've got that.
And that covers everything that schools should be doing as standard in order to support children to reach their potential. So let's quick whistle-stop tour of EHCPs. If things aren't working at this level, let's send support. That's when we're looking at an EHCP. Some children with complex health needs might automatically get an EHCP really early on. Some children, we have a bit of a fight to get an EHCP. Some children fall in the middle. So you are able to request a needs. We start with a needs assessment. You are able to request a needs assessment. Sometimes it's better if it comes from the school. We kind of need them to be on board because a needs assessment is going to look at what your views are of what's going on. It's going to ask the school for their views of what's going on. It's going to be asking the school what they've done. They're going to want evidence that they've been doing this graduated approach and how long they've been doing it for and why it's not working. The local authority will look at all of that. So if there's any other professionals involved, they'll ask them for reports as well. But the local authority will look at all of that, and then they will give you either a yes to assess or a no, we're not taking this any further. At this point, you can, if they say no and you think that they're wrong, you can go to tribunal. But if it's a yes, that is at the point that they will start to do some assessments and build a draft EHCP. Once you get a draft EHCP, you have 15 days from receiving your draft EHCP for you to look over it all. And some of these EHCPs are huge. It's ridiculous.
It's not long.
It's ridiculous.
It's not very long
They will take many weeks to put it together. They give you 15 days to read it and understand it, and then
amend it if you want to.
Yes, and you can then put forward any amendments. You can ask for a extension on those 15 days. For example, over Christmas, lots were given. Really close to Christmas, and there weren't any professionals around to support parents to go through these, so we got a lot of extensions over that period. Anyway. So you've got 15 days to respond. I really urge you to get some support looking through that if you're not comfortable looking at these documents because they're complicated things, and the standard of some of them coming through is
shocking,
tricky. So get some support and we can help you. Sendias are really good at looking at EHCPs as well. And then after that, obviously, you'll then get your EHCP, which should be reviewed regularly, yearly, I think, after they start school. If you've got a young child and they're in nursery, it's every 6 months. And then you get the same thing. So every year you then get another draft and you've got 15 days to comment on it.